what you are, eh? Head on a stick!
Hello everyone and welcome to day 17 of Terrorthon, the small screen. We are currently living in the age of the television show. Thanks to Netflix, I would say, just about every intellectual property has been adapted to become a television show, with varying levels of success. And I want to focus on some of the horror adaptations today. Horror movies that have been adapted into TV shows, because some of them are really good and worth your time, and some of them are so obscure because they weren't on air for very long, but a lot of these I've never heard anyone talking about before, so I'd like to shine a spotlight on them. So let's get the most obvious and well-known one out of the way first. Ash vs Evil Dead. It premiered in 2015 and was based on the Evil Dead trilogy of movies which came out from 1981 to 1992. The premise that it was set 30 years after the movies, and Ash would have to renounce his boring existence of living in a trailer and working a menial job to fight the Evil Dead again. It got terrible ratings, if you can believe that. Sometimes barely over 100,000 people were watching it, and yet it received absolute critical acclaim, and people are still wanting a fourth season to come out, but it's not going to happen, and it was cancelled sadly in 2018. If you have the time, this show is fantastic. Go watch it. Scream. Premiering in 2015 and based on Wes Craven's Scream series of movies, this was technically an anthology show because the third season took place in a different town with different characters. It originally followed a character named Emma Duval who was linked to the town of Lakewood's deep past, and her goal was to try to uncover the identity of the Lakewood slasher who was the stand-in for Ghostface in the series. As I say, the third season followed a similar premise, but this time it followed a male Atlantan football star. The series got mixed reviews and poor ratings, and ultimately it was cancelled in 2019. I've not seen it, so I can't recommend it one way or another. Chucky. Premiering in 2021, this was based on the Child's Play and Chucky movies, of course, and the series was a direct sequel to the cult of Chucky. It even brought back Brad Dourif, which is fantastic. And it followed Chucky as he committed a series of murders in a quiet American city. What else would you expect? It starred a 14-year-old character, Jake Wheeler, who was being framed for Chucky's murders, and what it did differently is it actually explored Chucky's past when he was a human a little bit, and it was a coming-of-age story. It got very good reviews and the ratings are growing and growing, and the series is still ongoing to this day. In fact, the third season just premiered October 4th. I hear it's very good. Give it a watch. The Exorcist. In 2016, a series came out which was a direct sequel to the 1973 film, and the only character from the original movie to return was Regan, not played by Linda Blair though, unfortunately. It tied back to the original movies a lot, and it starred a pair of exorcists who would investigate a series of possessions. The show had a loyal cult fan base and it got good reviews and ratings, but sadly it was cancelled after the second season in 2017. I'm going to check this show out. I've never heard of it, and if it's as good as it says, then I'd be very curious to see. Wolf Creek. Premiering in 2016, this was a spin-off series of Wolf Creek 1 and 2, bringing back the original actor who played Mick Taylor. It focused on an American tourist named Eve who survived her encounter with the serial killer Mick Taylor and would then embark on a mission of revenge. Now, despite this show streaming on the Australian service Stan, it's been seen by fans all over the world and has received rave reviews and ratings. And while it's not officially cancelled, for 6 years there's been no announcement of a third season, but I hope it happens. This show is actually pretty damn good. Friday the 13th, the series. It premiered in 1987 and is a curious one because it was originally just called The 13th Hour, but the producers changed the title to cash in on the famous film franchise. It has no connection whatsoever to the movies or Jason. However, there are some ties with the cast and crew. It's all about cousins who inherit an antique shop, and then they sell all of the items only to later discover that the items are cursed, and then they must return them to the antique shop or horrific events will unfold. The show got good reviews and ratings, but it was cancelled in 1990 mid-season, so they couldn't even give it a proper finale or closure. Very sad. And finally, I'd like to briefly discuss Let the Right One In. This show isn't particularly notable, but it's based on one of my favourite movies of all time, so it has to get a shout out. Premiering in 2022, this was based on the 2008 movie and novel Lo Tendrete Como In, but it unfortunately retreaded the book plot a bit too closely. It featured a character called Mark Kane who would look after and protect his daughter Eleanor and feed her the blood she required after she became a 12-year-old vampire and had been in that state for 10 years. But just like in the book, she meets a 12-year-old boy, but unlike in the book, she also meets a scientist who's looking for a cure for the vampirism. The series was considered inferior to the movie, it got terrible ratings, and it was cancelled in January 2023 after just one season. Again, what a shame, it sounded like it was okay, but nothing will ever top the original movie. And there you go, there's some shows for you to check out if you're really interested in horror and want something a bit different from the usual horror movies. I didn't mention them all, that would be impossible. We've also got Freddy's Nightmares, Teen Wolf, The Purge, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Damien, the list goes on and on and on. But you've now got something new to check out, surely there was at least one show there you'd never heard of. Thank you for watching, and I hope if you do watch any of these you enjoy very much. See you tomorrow.